Hello, this is Colby Rose, and in this Pecha Kucha, I will be talking to you about some of the things that I have learned in educational psychology. I'll also be talking about how it is important and how I will use them in my teaching career as well. First, I have learned many things from educational psychology. One of the first things I did learn was that an intentional teacher is teaching with a purpose. Being an intentional teacher, you are always developing and growing. Um, as an intentional teacher, you need to practice reflective teaching. I can be an intentional teacher by seeking mentors and using skills learned by previous teachers. As an intentional teacher, I need to have a purpose for everything that I do, create no busy work for my students, and I need to research and also evolve with the society and my students. Being an intentional teacher can help students pay more attention. As an intentional teacher, I need to create relationships with my students as well. Intentional teaching is important because it requires teachers to be purposeful and and it helps build a better understanding for each of the students. Learning involves obtaining information from deliberate teaching from like an intentional teacher, like I said before. As a teacher, I will need to be participating in private speech, which includes talking about old lesson plans and see how they went. Students learn better in their zone of proximal development. As a teacher, I will need to know each student and know what level they're at in my class. So this can help me help them and also help them scaffold up and grow and know each lesson better. I need to help each student and get them to where they can be their best. This is important because knowing their zone of proximal development will be able to help me make lesson plans for them. Also, scaffolding is really important to students who are struggling. As a teacher, I need to help them and do not just give them the answers right away. Next is Bronfenbrenner's biological model for human development. This focuses on what impacts a child and their environment. An example would be if a family moves and the child has to make more friends when they're at school and doesn't really know anyone yet. As a teacher, I will need to create relationships with my students. It is important that I know each student, and I need to know that they have a lot going on in their lives other than school. I need to talk to each student and interact with them each day. As a teacher, I need to make my classroom a safe space. It is important that my students feel comfortable in my room. I'm going to try and have them talk about their lives and get to know each of them better. Some of the best teachers that you have are the ones you have a great relationship with. Next, I'm going to talk about reinforcement and punishment. As a teacher, you need to know both of those because reinforcement strengthens behavior and punishment is meant to decrease the behavior. There's also positive and negative, which means adding to the environment or taking away from the environment. As a teacher, I need to try and increase the good behaviors and decrease the bad behaviors. I need to know how to use both positive and negative reinforcement and punishment. I need to make sure I have evidence that it works so I don't just do it and they keep doing the same thing over and over. I need to know how to recognize situations where I can use both of them or any of them. I don't need to praise the same thing over and over again because then it isn't as significant. This is important because I need to try and make my class as good as I can and decrease the bad behaviors. Next, I'm going to talk about the brain. There are three parts of the memory. There are working memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. In working memory, you can hold 5 to 9 pieces of information at a time, and there is echoic and iconic memory, which is eyes and ears, and those are 0.5 seconds and 3 to 5 seconds. I need to create connections to content learning. This makes it easier for students to remember. I need to work on trying to increase their long-term learning. Learners have to pay attention to retain the information that I am giving them. As a teacher, I will need to change up the lesson plan sometimes to increase the stimulus and attention of the students. This is good so that students don't fall into a routine and don't pay as much attention to what is learning. All of this is important because you need to do your best to keep the students interested and engaged. As there are next are study strategies. Some of them are retrieval practices, transfer, space study, and interleaving. There are many more study strategies that are out there. Some of them are like practice, test, flashcards, and etc. All of these help increase long-term memory. It gives students different ways to study. And it doesn't work just in one class, it works in all the classes. As a teacher, I will need to switch up what strategy I'm using so they don't just use the same one over and over again. This is important because students can use this for the rest of their educational career. It increases long-term memory and understanding of content. It can increase the grades in helping students get into better colleges or help them study in college. Lastly, overall, I've learned a lot in my educational psychology class. I've learned that a bunch of things will help me later on and become a better teacher myself.